Let's get into some real talk, because I'm sick of watching white America crash out, melt down, and riot on Facebook every time the word reparations comes up.
African Americans built capitalism in the same way that potatoes built McDonald's. The United States was 90+%, in my opinion, of course, white, almost for the totality of its existence. And you're going to tell me that this tiny group of people are the ones who made it great? Look off. It's my blood and sweat of my relatives that made that happen.
But the minute we talk about billions going to illegal immigrants, suddenly everybody's mute. Where's that not with my tax dollars energy when it's time to cut checks for people who just set foot in this country? Oh, y'all only get triggered when it's foundational Black Americans asking for what's owed. Let's lay all this out, because I'm about to walk this double standard down brick by brick, receipt by receipt. And baby, before you even say LaSherika, you're just race baiting. No, I'm calling out hypocrisy and lineage-based hate with the numbers to back it up. Y'all scream America first till it's time to pay a debt to Black Americans, but have no problem shoveling cash at illegal immigrants and watching those dollars get shipped right out the country in remittances. Let's see if y'all can handle this smoke. Let's start with the numbers, because unlike the I pay taxes crowd, I came prepared. Do you know how much your government shells out for illegal immigration every year? According to FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform, in 2023, the net cost to American taxpayers for illegal immigration was $163 billion a year. That's federal, state, and local spending on healthcare, schools, legal defense, housing, food assistance, and more. California alone spends over $23 billion per year on services for illegal immigrants. That includes free healthcare for all low-income undocumented adults, legal aid, college tuition assistance, and even direct cash programs in places like LA, San Francisco, and Culver City. Texas, $11 billion per year. New York, $9.5 billion per year. Illinois, Florida, and New Jersey. Each state spends billions more. Let's get specific. During the COVID pandemic, California cut one-time checks of $500 to $1,000 to over 300,000 undocumented workers. LA County's Guaranteed Income Program gave hundreds of dollars a month, no questions asked, primarily to immigrant families, documented or not. Chicago set up a $20 million fund to provide rent relief and direct cash assistance for all city residents, regardless of immigration status. In 2022, New York created an Excluded Workers Fund, $2.1 billion, specifically to send cash payments of up to $15,600 per person to undocumented workers who lost jobs during COVID. And did y'all see a Tea Party protest? Did the Fox News crowd flip cars or march on City Hall? Number for all their talk about the border, when that money actually goes out, white America shrugs and keeps scrolling. The money can flow, just as long as it's not flowing to Black people. Let's get even deeper. Where do these billions go after the checks get cut? A whole lot of it leaves the U.S. economy for good. It's called remittances, money sent back to the immigrants' home countries. In 2022, the World Bank reported that $67 billion left the U.S. in remittances sent to Mexico, Central America, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Mexico alone received $61 billion, an all-time record. That's more than the entire annual budgets for major U.S. cities. Imagine if those dollars circulated in Black communities instead of getting wired overseas. Let me make this plain. White Americans will quietly bankroll undocumented immigrants, then watch their money fly out the country, but will have a full-on meltdown if Black folks ask for reparations, which, by the way, would stay right here in the American economy. Make it make sense. Let's talk about the crash out over reparations.
So you feel like us as a society has pandered?
Of course we've pandered to Blacks. They're in every TV commercial. They get more privileges to come into society. They come into every college on preferential with lower test scores. You can't ever say anything negative. You can lose your job. You will have your entire life obliterated if you say something racist. And yet we have to hear about how racist we are. How about you take responsibility for your own actions instead of blaming the white man? That's not racist, that's noticing. How is it the white man's fault that Black men started to abandon the women?
It's a bigger problem.
No, Blacks need to take responsibility for the women that they impregnate, not blame the white man or racism.
The moment a Black person says, "We deserve compensation for 250 years of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, and wealth theft," it's like a tornado hit the suburbs. All of a sudden, everybody's a historian, a fiscal hawk, a philosopher, and a concerned taxpayer. The outrage isn't just loud, it's organized. organized, town halls packed with angry white folks clutching their pearls over handouts, politicians tripping over themselves to promise, "I'll never support cash reparations." Social media flooded with memes, misinformation, and "not my tax dollars" hashtags. But here's the hypocrisy. These same people barely say a word when their taxes go to pay for housing, legal defense, and healthcare for millions who aren't even citizens. It's not about the money, it's about who gets the money. A Pew Research Center survey in 2023 found 80% of white Americans oppose cash reparations for descendants of slavery, but the same survey found a majority of white Democrats support sanctuary cities and aid to undocumented immigrants. How is it okay for newcomers to get paid, but not the people whose ancestors built the country? Let's run down the classic excuses white America uses to block reparations. I know y'all heard these a million times, so let's roast them one by one. Excuse one, I didn't own slaves. First of all, reparations isn't about individual guilt. It's about national debt. No one alive today owned slaves, but the country still benefits from the system slavery built. The money, land, and power created by free black labor built America's banks, insurance companies, universities, and infrastructure. Those benefits compound generation after generation. Excuse two, my family immigrated here after slavery. Cute story, but it don't hold up. Your ancestors still entered a society where black labor, wealth, and rights were suppressed so white immigrants could succeed. The Homestead Act, land giveaways, FHA loans, Social Security, and the GI Bill were all designed for whites, not FBAs. That's why your family could build generational wealth, while black families were redlined and shut out. Excuse three, we fought a civil war to end slavery. Miss me with the white hero narrative. Yes, the North won the war, but slavery didn't end with guns. It ended with black resistance and abolitionist organizing. And after 1865, black people faced 100 more years of legal oppression, sharecropping, lynching, Jim Crow, mass incarceration. The war didn't clear the debt. It barely scratched the surface. Excuse four, it's not fair to make people today pay for the past. So it's unfair to repay stolen labor and wealth, but it's not unfair to tax working people to fund benefits for illegal immigrants? Y'all never said a word about fairness when it's subsidies for corporations, foreign aid to Israel or Ukraine, or tax breaks for billionaires. But suddenly the rules change when it's black Americans on the line. Let's break it down. If the past doesn't matter and it's not my fault, then why is it okay to cut checks for illegal immigrants, many of whom broke the law to get here and whose home countries failed them, yet y'all want to block black Americans whose only crime was being born in a country that exploited their ancestors? You didn't make Guatemala or Honduras collapse. You didn't make Mexico dangerous. But your taxes pay for immigrants from those countries. No debate, no studies, no commission. Meanwhile, you say I owe nothing to black folks who had everything stolen by American laws, American banks, American companies, and American police. Tell me how that math works. Let's put numbers to the talking points. Illegal immigration, $163 billion per year every single year. Over a decade, that's $1.6 trillion. Reparations for black Americans. The most cited estimates, like those by William Darity at Duke, put the full cost of closing the racial wealth gap at $10 to $15 trillion. But here's the kicker. Reparations would be a one-time investment, most of which would stay right here, in American banks, businesses, housing, and education. It would stimulate the U.S. economy, close gaps, and reduce future costs of poverty and crime. Illegal immigration, by contrast, is a perpetual cost, and most of the cash leaves the country every payday via remittances. And yet, white America can't handle reparations, but can sign off on paying for illegal immigrants forever. The math ain't mathing. Let's stop pretending this is about law or fiscal responsibility. If it was, there'd be equal outrage for both. The truth is, white America loses its mind over reparations because it's about lineage. FBAs are the descendants of the people America brutalized, exploited, and then tried to forget. The resistance to reparations isn't about money. It's about the psychological cost of admitting the debt, facing the guilt, and giving up the last illusion of innocence. Immigrants are seen as new Americans, potential assets, future voters, even hardworking folks chasing the dream. FBAs, we're the mirror America wants to break, not look into. Even white liberals who claim to love diversity line up with conservatives to block reparations. Why? Because cash for black people is divisive, but cash for immigrants is compassionate. The difference is the bloodline. Let's hit some more of those classic lines. Reparations will cause division. America was built on division. Native land was stolen, black people were enslaved, and wealth was created by pitting groups against each other. But now, when it's time to fix it, unity is the excuse? Please. We're a nation of immigrants. True, but that never included black folks. The gates were open for Europeans, but slammed shut on us. Ellis Island is a fairy tale. Black folks came here in chains. We're a nation of immigrants and descendants of slaves. Only one group has never been paid. Let's move forward, not dwell on the past. Funny how nobody says that when it's time to remember the Alamo, 9/11, or the Founding Fathers. America lives off history until it's time to face the parts that make y'all uncomfortable. If we give reparations to black people, every group will want a payout. Ain't nobody else been through 250 years of chattel slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and another 50 years of targeted discrimination. Cut the check and stop acting like FBAs are just another group. So let me ask the question directly. Why is it okay to spend your tax dollars on illegal immigrants, no matter what their story is, no matter where the money ends up, but reparations for FBAs is the end of America? What are you really afraid of? That if black Americans finally get paid, you'll have to admit you benefited from the rigged game? That you'll have to compete on a level field instead of one you inherited with all the cheat codes already in place? Let's be real. This country spent $5 trillion on COVID relief, $113 billion, and counting on Ukraine, and nobody marched in the street. Israel gets $4 billion a year, no questions asked. But the idea of giving any of that to the people whose ancestors made all of this possible? That's where the line gets drawn. How can you claim to love America, wave the flag, and brag about opportunity for all, then deny the group whose unpaid labor built the wealth, roads, and institutions you enjoy? Why is it okay for illegal immigrants to get your dollars, but not the people you see every day at work, school, and church? Let's play devil's advocate. If the issue is really the rule of law, then explain this. Why do you get mad about reparations, which are lawful congressional acts, but not about illegal immigrants who by definition broke the law? Why is there no moral panic about sanctuary cities, but non-stop fear-mongering about reparations bankrupting America? It's not about the law, it's about the line. Reparations are for people whose claim can't be ignored, whose history you can't whitewash, whose presence demands you deal with the past. Illegal immigrants are easier to pity, easier to ignore when the money leaves. And don't give me the "they do jobs Americans won't do" line. Black Americans did every job in this country, on farms, in factories, in homes, until you replaced us with cheap labor and called it progress. Let's talk about what would really happen if reparations were paid. It wouldn't destroy the country. It would transform it. Economic growth. Black Americans would buy homes, start businesses, pay down debt, and send their kids to college. That money would circulate in America, creating jobs and tax revenue, reduce poverty and crime. Closing the racial wealth gap would mean safer neighborhoods, stronger schools, and less government spending on welfare and policing. Moral reckoning. Reparations would force America to finally confront its real history and move forward on a foundation of truth, not lies. And unlike illegal immigration, reparations don't send a dime overseas. Every dollar builds America, because we are America. So, family, let's stop letting folks gaslight us. The only reason white America crashes out over reparations is because they know what we're owed and they're terrified to pay the debt. All the excuses in the world can't hide the truth. They have no problem funding illegal immigrants, even as those dollars get shipped abroad. They make up every excuse in the book when it's time to pay Black Americans who never left, never asked to come here, and never got what's due. It's time to flip the script. No more letting folks move the goalposts, hide behind bogus excuses, or pretend the money ain't there. If you can pay for wars, you can pay for reparations. If you can write checks to people who just got here, you can write checks to the folks who built the house. White America, what are you so scared of? If the issue is money, look at your budget. If it's law, look at your history. If it's fairness, ask yourself why you never object when everyone else gets paid, just not us. And to my FBAs, stop falling for the okey-doke. Demand the same energy, the same urgency, and the same checks. This country has the money. It always has. The only debate is who they want to keep it from. I'm LaSherika, and chow, I said what needed to be said.